Hello everyone, it's Ashwin Rao, and in today's video I have an extremely special unboxing of one of the world's most highly regarded shoemakers. As you can see, this is a makeup from Seiji McCarthy. Seiji McCarthy is known across the world as one of the world's best shoemakers. He has a small team of artisans and craftsmen with whom he works, based out of Tokyo, Japan, to manufacture what I would describe as elevated heritage classic Americana footwear. The idea is that he takes classic styles and lasts that reflects some of the heritage footwear coming out of the 20th century, and particularly the early to mid 20th century American footwear manufacturers, including brands like Florsheim, Alden, and others, and takes classic and stylish makeups from those eras and essentially applies Japanese bespoke level manufacturing processes to bring those styles into a more modern, updated, precision crafted footwear. Today's video is video one, which really is just the unboxing video and a first look at this pair of Shortwing Oxford shoes from Seiji McCarthy. So let's get to the unboxing. As you can see, this is a beautiful hinged shoe tree that also gives us information, because it is a lasted shoe tree, about the shape of this particular last. As you can see, this has a rounded toe and has a slightly asymmetric last. I would call this, on viewing this shoe that you're going to take a look at in a little bit, as a asymmetric rounded toe last rather than a true almond-shaped last. Got this matte gloss finish that should allow it to remove and be placed in the shoes easily. You can see the hole that is drilled into the foot and heel parts of this tree. Let's get into a little bit of the details here. So as I mentioned, once the shoe has been properly lasted, you see that it has a slightly more rounded, less dramatic look than the shoe tree itself, but definitely a rounded asymmetric last. The Shortwing being that the wingtip design here, which has broguing and pinking, as you can see, this serration along the edges of that piece of the leather and joint there, and you can see serration along the edge of the facing, from the vamp to the facing, as well as heading towards the side panels, as well as along the heel counter here. If we pull back to here, we can see that that broguing is done with really clear detail, with alternating large brogue holes and the two classic smaller brogue holes adorning the entire edge of the facing, extending along the collar, along the heel counter, and along the vamp on either side here. We have a classic yet beautifully designed medallion here, which is this design of broguing placed on the toe. And the entire shoe is constructed of a dark cognac Horween shell cordovan. I thought of this shoe as a lifetime shoe when I approached Seiji. I thought the bridge of developing a rugged Shortwing Oxford was going to be really appealing. Further, you can dress up an Oxford with a nice rounded waist here. And if we look at the edges of that waist, we see that inside medial margin of that waist has a sharp edge, kind of a squared off edge here, but then it kind of gently curves into a nice beveled edge along its back side of that waist. And you can see a subtle step off between the heel block and the waist here, that subtle notch that you see right there. Subtle, and you can't see that on the other side. So on the other side of the shoe, this is a much more squared off edge, a hard square edge, and no step off on the heel block. 3 pieces of leather forming that full grain leather heel stack. You can see a Vibram 2540 and 2340 explosion heel and sole guards here, and a Lulu style toe plate. I will say there's a slight step off that you can see between the edge of this toe plate with this Vibram explosion heel. So I haven't seen that before, but there is a subtle step off there. We have 5 eyelets on a closed channel lacing system, and the bottom stitch affixing that closed channel. And these eyelets are protected by metal rings, as you can see here. And we also see this really unique broguing that's present along the top of this tongue here. If we look into the shoe, you can see that the tongue has a leather lining that provides a little bit more stiffness to the shoe, and this entire shoe is lined, so it's not just a half leather lining. This is a full leather lining that lines full footbed, and the Seiji McCarthy emblem right here. So a fully brogued wingtip Oxford shoe, Oxford as designated by the closed channel lacing system, with both rugged and elevated DNA. See that subtly rounded waist, and yet this rugged Vibram heel and sole padding here, the elevation with the toe plate, and the echoes of the lines, the straight line here, the straight line here, and the subtly curved line, not as dramatic of a curve here. The heel block is a block heel. You don't see a tapered heel. Again, that is in line with the traditional style of this shoe. And yet, for this ruggedness of your block heel, you see an asymmetrically shaped heel cup here, a more rounded medial edge and a more pronounced lateral edge to that curve. So just this perfect melding of the details of a near bespoke level fit and finish. Although this was a made to order shoe, I gave him my foot size and he made up the shoe based on my UK sizing. Seiji has really done an incredible job with the little details here. The subtly elegant clean pinking is a perfect example of such subtleness of the detailing you can see along the edges of the cuts of leather here. You also see the pinking along the top of the entire collar, and as I mentioned, extending to the toe, where we even see the pinking adjacent to the broguing here, which is broguing that you can see all the way through that, because the lining here does not cover up that broguing. So really cool little details that I'm loving to see here. A couple other things I noticed is that a lot of dress shoes use a suede or rough out on the back heel piece right here of the lining. This is a more smooth leather approach, and this entire inside of the shoe is lined. So it's a fully lined sock bed and footbed right there. And we can see how the light catches this shoe. Dark cognac, I don't know if this lighting truly does the dark cognac justice, but this is a shoe that will lighten up quite a bit in natural daylight and almost look like a mid-brown. Here it has this dark, almost olive brown look under fluorescent and LED style lighting. The Horween Shell Cordovan should outlive me, meaning that this shoe should outlive me. Should be pretty simple to replace the heel and sole guards here. If they ever wear out, I can probably have my cobbler simply peel this off and reapply a new piece, and then skive it or bevel it down so that it's flush with this waist here. But I just love seeing these subtle details. So all in all, Seiji McCarthy has done a fantastic job. He's one of the world's most highly regarded shoemakers, manufacturing shoes out of Japan, specifically the Tokyo Asakusa area, and has his own bespoke setup there, including his workshop and gallery. Is considered one of the world's best shoemakers, having spent time training under Yohei Fukuda. He's an interesting guy in general, has been extremely pleasant to work with, been very communicative through the process and walking me through the process and what it was taking to manufacture these shoes, which took about 1.5 years to receive from order placement. I was able to break up the price of these shoes over 3 installments, which made it a little bit more palatable rather than taking the entire hit of finances all at once. And the options for the leather, the whole makeup were really spelled out to me rather clearly. So I chose this Horween Dark Shell Cordovan because it's the closest I can get to a dark brown or cigar brown look, and yet in a very highly designed, well-built, classic American heritage footwear style. Give Seiji a try if you want foot making at the highest level, essentially bespoke level construction in a made-to-order pair. I don't think you're going to go wrong with Seiji. I'll be interviewing him on my channel in the near future, and I'm looking forward to sharing that interview with you just to get to know Seiji a little bit more. If you're interested in getting to know him before that, head over to the Shoegazing podcast, where there's an interview with Seiji from about 2 years ago, where he walks through his background outside of shoemaking and his approach to shoemaking and what makes his makeups particularly special for those of us who love American style footwear, that rugged intersection with the elevated. That's my jam, and so are these shoes. Hope you're doing well. I'll talk to you soon, and I hope you're having a good one. Take care and goodbye.